Hi, this is Sharda Ogra.
Hello, this is Mohammad Isam.
Hi, this is Pradeep Magazine.
This is Behram Kazi.
Welcome to the PCCI podcast.
That's four in a row. Where is Cruz? They're going to blow next.
The prodigal son turned Messiah gets his second hundred in successive.
India have won in dramatic style. The whole of Bengal are on their feet.
Diego! Not that important. He's gone the next ball. The dream has diminished for Carlos Brathwaite. Unbelievable scenes here at the Broadway.
RCB breezes through the WPL to win it like a boss. Take a bow, Smriti Mandhana, Grace Harris, Lauren Bell, Nadine de Klerk, Shayan Patel and Richa Ghosh. Oh wait, almost forgot Vol. Kind of like they did halfway through the tournament. This is the first time I've seen a team just effortlessly run through the group stage without even playing their best. To talk about this and all the other teams, but let's face it, mostly about RCB. I have a great panel of writers, podcasters, and journalists with me. Let's start with introductions. So tell us about yourself and your favorite sports team, and it doesn't have to be from the WPL. So I'm going to start with you, Tarutra, and then we'll go we'll go in a round robin.
Yeah, sure. Thanks for having me, Richa. My favorite sports team, I think it has to be RCB, right? I think India has become too big. It's hard to support the overdog after years of watching Sachin struggle. That's what I grew up with. Sachin struggling and us having this great batting order and going to Australia and still getting thrashed at every possible opportunity. And so it's just hard to support a team that thrashes everyone else. Still gonna be happy when they win in about a month's time. But I think RCB has to be the team for me in cricket right now. Though somehow they seem to also be becoming an overdog. 3 titles in 3 years. I'm not sure what to do with that. But for now, I'm going to keep telling everyone RCB had no chance of winning this year, even if they did actually win. And I'm going to live in this underdog dream.
How about you, Neha? Do you want to come in next?
Yeah, I mean, first things first, really been a fan of your podcast, and feels like a life coming to a full circle moment that I can, actually come over here and talk all things cricket itself, right? I think to talk about the team that I've absolutely loved has to be again RCB. No surprises there. Lived all my life in Bengaluru here, so grew up just like really looking up to the men's team. And in 2023, I think my life really took like a 360. Right, the women's team came into the comp, and we had WPL start off itself. Right, so ever since then, I just haven't been able to look at any other team, and RCB has to be that one. Just the fact that they were able to assemble such a great team in 2023. Eventually, the result didn't come their way, but the way they still, came back in 2024, won the title, and now being able to do it in 2026, yeah, literally just got goosebumps telling that, like, 2-time champions, this is not something, as RCB fans, we're that used to, but the women's team is just making a habit out of it. So, yeah, just excited to look forward, just excited to discuss, like, RCB's win itself and just, like, actually review this WPL.
All right. Next up is Praatibh. Praatibh, why don't you introduce yourself and tell us that your favorite team is RCB?
So I'm not all I've stayed all my life in Bangalore. RCB is not the team I support. And this is where I think I can see Tarutr and Neha already hating on me. But I've been a Rajasthan Royals supporter for the longest time. So I'm also from Rajasthan, which is why I support the franchise. And it also helped that they won the IPL in 2008. So yeah, I think mostly that's the reason. And growing up, they've also uh, sort of got the right kind of players like Rahul Dravid or the likes of Shane Warne. So really idols that I kind of watched right from a young age. So yeah, that's the reason I support the Rajasthan Royals, although they've only won the one IPL title.
Wow, did I
And
hear Rajasthan Royals? That's awesome. All right. So coming back to you, Shan.
Yeah, I think first of all, thank you so much for having me on this podcast. It's a pleasure that I'm able to interact with so many of you guys who are all interested in women's cricket in particular, but are also like proper sports fans, cricket fans, and all that. So I think for me, it's interesting. I mean, I grew up loving Delhi Capitals when it was the Delhi Daredevils. And that was mainly because I was talking about this in the group, right? I grew up a Sehwag fan and I was really in love with the Indian men's team as well at that point. So I would say the Indian men's team obviously has been one of the teams that I've supported almost all my life. Even now, I mean, I still have, like, they're still my favorite team, I think. But, now that with all the players of my favorite generation, of my generation, the likes of Kohli and Rohit and all slowly retiring and going into the sunset, Ashwin. So I don't feel like I have the same level of attachment anymore with the new lot. Not to say that I don't like watching them play. I mean, the T20 team is a juggernaut, right? But yeah, but even within the Indian men's team, I would say I loved the Indian men's test team in particular, because the brand of cricket that they played, I think that really caught my eye. And so they are definitely up there. But RCB, of course, I mean, I fell in love with them. I went from Delhi to RCB around 2013, 2014-ish. And since then, it's been like a proper roller coaster ride, no? Uh, I don't know. I mean, we were just the butt of all jokes for the longest time. Everybody used to make fun of us that we are a bad team and we can't win anything and all of that. But now three trophies in 3 years, it's unbelievable stuff, honestly.
I think until the last few years, my only question to RCB fans was, where are the bowlers? Where are they?
Exactly.
Like, okay. So we'll go back to the RCB fan, Tarutr, again. So I'm going to ask you, what was the biggest surprise about RCB for you in this season?
This season, everything.
Yeah.
So I actually put out a piece today morning in my newsletter, just going on about this RCB team makes no sense. They have one batter that constantly plays. Like, they have one batter in the top 10, 12 run getters, like, for the entire season. It's just Mandana at the top and no RCB players. They have one bowler who can bowl well. She bowls extremely well, but there's just the one who can do 4 overs. They don't have a middle order. They had 4 recognized like specialist batters in the final. 2 of them got out for 15 runs. Their captain is good at man management, not the best on-field tactician. I have no idea how they won. Like, we all predicted them to lose and be bottom of the table at the start of the season. I'm still not entirely sure we were wrong. I have no idea how we won. I have no idea how they made 203 runs look like a stroll in the park. I think the one thing none of us really thought about was how much the one thing Mandana brings is she's so cool under any kind of pressure, which I think seems to be permeating. But I don't know how they won. This doesn't make any sense to me. I don't actually have a proper answer for you. Because you look at the teams, MI should be the winners, DC should be the winners. RCB should not be in this league.
It's true. RCB should not be in this league. Yeah, I mean, let's start off with the bowling. So you're talking about, I'm assuming you're talking about Lauren Bell, who was just fantastic this season. So I'll open the floor to the others. So Neha, Praatibh, Shayan, please come in and talk about what was so special about RCB this season and why do you think they won?
I mean, honestly, the win just happened, like last night, at the time of recording. So it's still, like we're processing the emotions that this win has happened because, I mean, pulling off like possibly the highest run chase, right? WPL finalists, again, like how Tarutr said, they just made it seem like a walk in the park, right? The way the win just went about. But there's a lot of positives, through the season itself that has helped. I think one thing was the fact that they had a different match winner almost every single game, right? Especially in the league phase itself. Just getting off to those back-to-back wins, it was just feeling like a fever dream, right? At some point, we would just snap out of it and be like, yeah, this is not happening. I think at some point in my podcast too, I mentioned, like, let's probably just like screenshot this table and like stop the league, like just declare RCB as winners. Because you felt like, sometime it could possibly just come to an end. And RCB did have that reality check in between in the tournament too. But again, just coming to the positives, in this tournament itself, I think it's impossible not to talk about Lauren Bell, right? I think it's been spoken to death about how the RCB social media team has just been making so many AI edits of her, just walking through forests and like walking through deserts and just ensuring, it just ends up as forests. But jokes apart, I think the way she's been bowling this season, right? The Lauren Bell 2.0 version that everyone keeps talking about has done well for for England as well with those wickets. Again, the wickets column might not necessarily reflect that, but the way she's just been so economical. A lot of people take dot balls for granted in T20s, and she's just made, dot balls so cool, right? With the variations that she's brought in her repertoire as well. I think for me, she has to be like right up there with the positives. If you let me, I'll just keep talking about a lot of other points. I think the other panelists can probably add on, but she definitely has to be like right up there.
I think I agree with Neha because one of my first thoughts also, and one of the earlier pieces that I'd written was along these very lines where, at least in the group stage, at least in like the first 4 5 games, every game threw up a different star. You either had Nadine the Clerk, you had Shayan Patil, you had Smriti Mandhana. So all of these players come in clutch. But more importantly, I think something that was discussed pre-season as well is that in the absence of Elise Perry, who's going to step up? And I feel like Smriti Mandhana there has played a really good role because for the longest time, and something that we've also kind of seen her do over the years in T20s, at least when it comes to the WPL, 2024 was a good season for her, but we feel like she's not reached her potential in this format. And this time, for sure, I think that was a big difference. Uh, One of the things is her game against spin improved. I think one of the factors was how she plays off spin. All of that is something that came a full circle for her. I think she's gotten much better there. But even in the power play for her, I think one of the biggest differences we saw is that despite her power play strike rate having dropped a bit, uh, what helped was that Grace Harris was on top, who was able to take charge and take the attack, which let Mandana settle in and then take her own explosive way in the middle overs. This was one of the biggest differences. I'll have to search for the numbers, but Mandana has gotten so much better in just holding her wicket in the power play period so that she can expand in the middle overs.
Yeah, go ahead, Shayan.
Yeah, I think I have to completely agree with what Praatibh and Neha have to say, right? I mean, Lauren Bell, Nadine de Klerk, and Smriti Mandhana, I believe these three are the players that have perhaps been the most pivotal to RCB's campaign this year. And obviously, all of us at the start of the season, I was very, very pessimistic about RCB. I had no idea how they're going to fill the Elise Perry void because the level of impact that she had over the last 3 seasons, it really seemed impossible. But just the fact that so many different match winners came up, I mean, Radha Yadav won them a game with the bat. Who would have ever thought that? We were all like, we just had no idea why they were playing Radha Yadav at number 5. But ultimately, she won them a game, and that was also a difficult situation, right? It's not like they won out of, they were not cruising through it. And there have been those sorts of games where they just, cruise. They were in a bit of a like, tricky situation, but they were able to come back up and show that they are a good team and they can deal with these adversities as well, right? Even in the final, to an extent, I mean, as as MV points out, that truly it was Radha Yadav who finished off the game, right? And honestly, the winning moment was very weird for me because I couldn't really tell if it's a 4 or not because of the whole hit wicket thing. I was like, is it a hit wicket? Wait. And my dad was like, no, they won. So that was a bit, that was funny to watch. But of course, I mean, Lauren Bell's impact right at the start. And I think Sayali Sadgare also played a very important role in supporting her at the start because initially they were going with Lindsay Smith. And I think perhaps that didn't work out the best for them. But just the fact that in every single phase, you can say that RCB had a match winner from start to end with both bat and ball. So, I mean, that is a pretty special thing for a team to be able to do.
Yeah, I cannot believe Radha Yadav won them games. Like I'm sorry, but this is the stuff that's of legends. Like
Exactly.
Radha Yadav has no business coming in at number 5. Guys, come on. Like my brain, they broke my brain when they did that the first time.
And even if you remember that innings, initially, I think she was like 3 of 10 or something. And we were all in the group probably just going like, what is happening, guys? But then she flicks a switch. I think she hits a 6 and a 4. I can't remember who the bowler was. Can someone point that out? But I think it was like the 7th or the 8th over. And then she really, played a proper innings, and Richa Ghosh at the other end, she was incredible. And I think another theme that I've been noticing with RCB is that they have minimized dot balls to quite an extent. And even when they have, that game against Mumbai where Richa Ghosh played a brilliant innings in a losing cause, that was the game where RCB of the past, I mean, especially the men's teams and all, they would have just collapsed there. I mean, 35 for 5, likely they would have been like less than 49 or maybe even, 60, 70 all out, game over. But the fact that Richa Ghosh played it smart, right? She didn't go for the win. It made no sense to go for the win. You had to preserve the net run rate, and she did that so smartly. I mean, I couldn't catch that game live because I was busy with something else. But when I saw the whole game ball by ball later on, I was so impressed with the level of game smarts that she had.
That's fair. You want to come back in Tarutra?
No, I think these guys have covered a lot of it, right? You've covered it too. Radha Yadav is not my favorite player. I mean, I got nothing against her personally, but to have her at number 5, to have her as your 4th choice bowler is a lot of faith, which I just don't have in her. But yeah, I mean, she worked out. She scored the winning runs. She had that 160-run innings that won us a match. It is true. I kind of wish the season was longer because I want to see if this is a luck-based thing or if it's actually replicable, that every game someone else just stands up. Because it's not been, oh, I'll come in and give you a 6 on 10 performance. It's I'll come in and give you 10 on 10, or I'll give you 1 on 10. Those are the two options. There is no, oh, I'm just consistent. So it's a really interesting team. And as far as I can tell, it's one of the few cricket teams where the power of a star is more important than the power of team construction, where Mandra and Bell have been brilliant. And just whoever has shown up on the day has been good enough. You've not needed like this, oh, we need to own this phase and we need to own that. Like yesterday, RCB's bowling was worse. Worse than MI's bowling. MI's batting was great. Like they did a really good job. None of it mattered. Vol just showed up and demolished everyone. And then Mandra went, okay, cool. I've given you 6 overs. Now I'm going to demolish everyone. And it just didn't matter at all. It was incredible.
Yeah, there was a calmness about it. And I think one of the interesting things I heard Smriti Mandana say at the end, was it her? Or I think I read this on Cricinfo that she said that after the auction, they all got phone calls from the management telling them that, okay, this is your role. This is what you need to prepare for this franchise. And I think just that level of role clarity is really important, especially in D20s. Like, okay, in this situation, you will do this. If that doesn't happen, continue to do this, etc. So just talking about what you know about their management and the cricket management this season, does anyone want to talk about that?
What's the general sentiment on Malolan, the coach, is what I'll open to the folks.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's very interesting, right? Because uh, obviously we don't have any insight on how the workings are exactly, but RCB does this thing where even on YouTube, for example, they've put out these uh, documentary style videos where they've sort of shown their process or what it looks like. So from that front and from whatever I do know about how data is looked at in the game, at least RCB is ahead as compared to a lot of the other teams when it comes to just understanding how data can be used. So I don't know how many other teams are looking at phase-wise play or looking at balls per boundary ratios or whatever it is. But at least on that front, it does look like RCB is able to use the data to their advantage. Some of the decisions, of course, still feel very wayward. Some of the selections I think we've spoken about through the entire tournament have felt wayward. But even something as simple as getting in Siley Sadgare, if you'll notice a lot of the other WPL teams, they've struggled to have that second new ball bowler who can actually swing the ball, and in this case, the other way. Most teams just have two in swing bowlers, or they have one seam bowler and someone who can maybe swing the ball. So, even small things like this, where you bring in that variety, is definitely something that I think the management has actively tried to do.
Yeah, that's right. Anyone else? Any comments on Malolan?
I'll probably just add a quick point here about Malolan himself. I mean, the kind of criticism that the man receives on a constant basis online, right? I think some of the RCB fans just love making fun of him and just mocking him all the time for all of his strategies. I think for the longest time, the whole Radha Yadav promotion to that number 5 position was something that I was like, what is happening here? Like, is there something that the man sees that we don't? In spite of all of that, ensure that the strategies have worked out well, I think it's still reflects like well in his CV and all of that. But as Tarutr said, right, if the season was like longer, would these experiments have worked? Could things have like been slightly different? Is something we'd definitely have to see. And just to like slightly go on a tangent here, I think a lot of people just end up criticizing him as a coach because they're like, hey, what are his credentials? Has he even played, like enough domestic cricket? Has he played international cricket? Like what makes him suitable to be up there? Again, not sure like what are the bases that people are judging him on, right? Because you have a lot of like coaching certifications and even experience that comes in hand. You don't necessarily have to be like a player of a certain caliber to be a coach, right? Because if that was the parameter for everything that you have to had like you have to play the game to like comment about it, then I think most of us armchair experts would just have to like shut our laptops and just like sit and just watch the game, right? Not talk about it. So I think some fans can get a little unfair in their criticism, and it's not coming from a place of rational. You can obviously like question decisions, but to like get on a personal level, I think a lot of fans just end up doing that, and sometimes RCB fans themselves are guilty of putting their own coaches down.
That's fine. Okay, so I think for me, what was really interesting about RCB season was also the one match where de Klerk came back from behind and won it, like that completely super impossible situation. Like I was like, what? What is she? Is she just doing what she does for South Africa? But in a more accelerated, like smaller format, I was extremely impressed with that. And I think when you saw a team where she's a new player, new players come in, Vol comes in and just immediately succeeds right away. That speaks to their management, right? So, okay, so we're going to go to talking about a specialty from from Karnataka is Bene Dosa. So, who was the Bene Dosa of RCB this year? Like one player who you think they could not have done without, and who's delicious from a team composition perspective. No other reason.
I think I'm going to leave who's delicious to Neha and stay far away from that question.
Yeah, I mean, probably if I had to address this one again, it's a tough one, right? But my pick definitely has to be Lauren Bell, right? I think just to imagine an RCB bowling lineup without her is impossible, right? The impact that she has had, we can probably dedicate an entire episode just dissecting her entire bowling analysis itself. So at least for me, she definitely has to be like right up there. Just can't imagine, this victorious campaign without her. I mean, the social media team did have a field day with all the edits that they did, but still, right, her impact like on the field is just was just unparalleled. And I think we were having a discussion too, right? Like in one of the groups about her possibly being chosen as the MVP as well, right? She was very much in that race. I mean, she should have been considered, but I think we're just such a batting obsessed nation that we just don't care enough about our bowlers. And this T20 format itself is like just so forgiving to bowlers, right? Yeah, I'd probably end my rant at that, and hopefully my answer is like just makes sense.
No, it really does. I think one of the most interesting analysis that I read was the one about Deepti Sharma countering Lauren Bell and how much work went into that when she came and opened for UP Warriors. So, Tarutr, it was in it was in your letter. He looks confused right there. He's like, what?
It took me a second to go, Deepti Sharma? That's the wrong team. No, but yeah, I know what you're talking about. No, she is the easy answer, right? I mean, Mandana has also had an unbelievably good season. We've kind of taken her for granted with how good she plays and how much she does for the team. But the point is fair. When you have like a 60% dot ball percentage across an entire season in T20s, I don't really think you can go beyond that. Like, Cap is the gold standard in the WPL. And Bell has made her look distinctly second place. And it's good timing on her part. She's got a home World Cup in a couple of months. Swing conditions, it should work out for her. Hopefully they play Lindsay Smith as a second power play bowler so the rest of us can have an out. But yeah, Lauren Bell has to be the easy answer here. I don't think we even come close without her.
All right, so I'm going to ask you all for your final ratings, and we're going to rate them out of not out of just 10. We're going to rate them out of 10 specific items. And so, what is your rating for RCB season out of 10 cricket balls that the clerk has hit out of the park? So, what's your rating for RCB season overall? And I think less than 10 is not acceptable.
Are you talking? How are we rating this? Is it how happy are we with the season? Is it how sustainable this is? Is it like what? How are we rating it? What are the criteria?
I mean, in general, like, okay, let's say compared to their last season that they won, how is this? How is this season?
It's about a 75 out of 10. I mean, they went from not making the playoffs to winning in incredible fashion. So I think, yeah, I have lots of criticisms, but none of my criticism seems valid apparently. So yeah, I just got to go with the flow, I think.
Do we agree with this rating, Shayan and Praatibh?
This time around, yeah, like with the number of things that could have gone sideways with the way they picked their squads and ultimately how it worked out for them, probably 8.5 on 10, because there's definitely scope for improvement and there's definitely they have some quality players, but if they are able to sustain this in the long run, that's what will get them to a proper 10. Yeah.
I think it's interesting, right? If we talk about the last season that RCB won, they actually came back from behind and won that season. Like at one point, it seemed like they are not going to win that season after that one run loss, right? It just looked very difficult for them, but they managed to come back, and that was all on the back of some great individual performances, and that was a proper star-studded team in some ways. This team has been very good, but it doesn't have the same number of stars in some ways. I would say they don't have an Elise Perry or a Sophie Molyneux, or even a Sophie Devine for that matter. They don't have a lot of stars. They have very good players. They have like I said, lots of players who have done well in their particular roles. But I still feel that this team overperformed a bit. I mean, I think maybe it's just our bias, because coming into the tournament, we were all like, no, RCB is not a good team and all of that. So I would say they did exceed my expectations quite a bit. And compared to the last season, this was a more clinical season, purely if we judge them on their performances, right? So I would give them a 9 out of 10.
Neha looks happy with that.
Yeah, because that's exactly the number I was probably looking at, right? I think the kind of season that RCB had this time around was like straight out of a Bollywood movie itself, right? You get off to like that perfect start, so many wins on the trot, and suddenly like your qualification is seed, but you want to make your presence in the final, then you have those few losses, and then again come back and win. So I definitely say that there are like areas of criticism and pointers that they keep in mind, right, going ahead too, because that number 3 position again, Georgia Wall did well, but then there was like a little bit of experimentation that was happening back end, and sometimes I think the bowling too, right, can get just heavily reliant on Lauren Bell, and could Prema Raut have been included? Why is Pooja Vastrikar not bowling? It's just a lot of questions, right? It's just me nitpicking. But in all fairness, just if I'm talking from a fan sentiment and just putting on the fan cap itself, I think I'd probably say, like this was that 10 on 10 sort of a season. And like Tarutr keeps saying, right, the win doesn't make sense. The fact that it has happened has just probably still left us in denial. Like, I think the 4 of us are just like in denial, like what just happened? Like, RCB has won. But then to probably process this win itself, right, like in the light of all the information that we have and all the stats and everything, I think it's still quite the momentous feat and something we'll remember much more fondly, rather than the 2024 win, which sort of, set the ball rolling. But now they've just made winning a habit, champion mindset, DNA, and all of that. Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. So speaking of a champion mindset, we're going to come to our other finalist who's been they've forever been a finalist, right? So our co-host Sarthak, he has a tweet which says, can you imagine being Marizan capped runner-up at the T20 World Cup in 2022, 2024, the ODI World Cup in 25, and now 4 out of 4 seasons in the WPL, consistently being a finalist and not winning. What is she got to do to make them win?
4 dot balls. But seriously, I don't think there's anything Cap can do, right? She's brilliant. She could have done a little bit more in the World Cup final last year, but in the WPL, this is not on her at all. It's really hard to say what DC did wrong. They have an incredible bowling attack that is useless against one player in that world, and one player seems to be Smriti Mandhana. And I really am sitting here after the game, having analyzed it. I don't know too much about what DC could have done worse, because they didn't concede any. They were all between 8 and 15 runs. That's it, right? There's 1 over 7, 1 over 16, but it's basically 8 and 15. They didn't get hit. They didn't concede too many singles. They just got beat by a better team. Like, not even by 2 players. They got beat. And they still almost pulled it off, got a couple of wickets at the end, put some nervousness back in the RCB fans. So from just yesterday's perspective, it's hard to criticize them too much. Overall, I actually think they're on a pretty good trajectory. I think Jemmy has been an inspired choice as captain. The first week or so was iffy, but the last week has been fantastic from what I've seen. She uses the ball as well. She sets fields well.
Yeah.
She trusts her team. She leads by example. She's kind of, even as an RCB fan and a Mandhana fan, she kind of has me going, maybe Jemmy should jump the queue a little bit for Team India. She's been really good.
Yeah, and do you want to come in, Praatibh? We haven't heard from you in a bit about
think
DC.
Delhi Capitals should try and reduce their choker score, and to do that, they'll have to pick lesser South African players in their team. That's honestly the only way it's going to work out for them, because you have 3 South Africans and it just follows them. The tag of chokers just follows them across tournaments, across years. But yeah, I think Tarutr is spot on to say that they've mostly done a lot of things correct. There's not too much that, even from a game analysis point of view, that you'd look at and you'd say there's definitely something that's gone wrong. If anything, at the halfway mark, at least in the final, we felt that it's totally their game. The pitch was, of course, a better one to bat on as compared to what we'd been seeing in the second leg. But even for them, the way they batted through the middle overs, especially Jemima Rodriguez and Laura Bulwart, I think they paced it beautifully. Like literally, the only thing I can think of is maybe Bulwart not getting enough strike to explode in possibly the last four. But Chanel Henry, anyways, did a good job. So, like, what do you look at and what do you say? And maybe the one thing is they would have had Sri Charani step up a little more uh, because she's someone who, if she gets on a roll, can really run through a side, can get multiple wickets. But yeah, really, it's just unlucky for them. Maybe they need to change something in their setup or whatever it is. But yeah, like just hard luck.
Yeah, DC, okay, first of all, I need to apologize and give a really deep, heartfelt apology to Laura Woolward. I disrespected you before the tournament. I said that perhaps this wasn't your format and maybe you wouldn't make it to the team. And my God, have I been proven wrong? Do you want to come in, Shayan, and talk about DC a little bit?
Yeah, I think it's after a point it just becomes a little hilarious, no, that every time they make the final and they don't win. I mean, it feels, they're the sort of team because as I said, they were my first love in the IPL. So I always have like this soft corner for them. And even in the women's team, they've always had players that I've really liked, right? I mean, Jimmy, they had Meg Lanning, they have Annabelle Sutherland even now, right? Lots of players in their team. Laura Woolwart, Marizan Cup. You want to root for those sorts of players simply because of how good they are in terms of quality and how they conduct themselves on the field. So I don't know, dude. Like yesterday, I feel the only thing where they've probably went wrong was the first 3 overs, where Lauren Bell bowled really well and she was able to keep Lizelle Lee quiet. Because apart from that, if you break down the game from a phase by phase basis, there really wasn't much to separate between the two teams. Possibly the catch that Jamie dropped in the 19th over. I feel like that is one thing which could have maybe, put a little more pressure, especially with Smriti just having gotten out a couple, like the ball before or the ball, like in that very over, right? So I just feel like if that was something they could have, it was not even a choke, right? It's not like they were in a position of power and from there, they bowled, they didn't like bowl absolutely terribly or, came back like the worst possible situation for RCB was possibly 8 or 4 in the whole game. They were just in so much control. I was talking to Deepak yesterday on First Umpire when we were doing the finals podcast, and he was also saying the same thing. Like, what could he have done differently? And maybe if they bowled Cap, kept another over for Cap later on, but then you could also argue that you want Cap in the power play, right? You don't really want her to, hold back her overs when RCB are going all guns blazing, and especially you want to take those early wickets, right? And that's what you expect from a player of that quality. And I don't know, maybe a very interesting point actually that Deepak brought up in our chat yesterday was that RCB have a lot of pacers in the middle overs who can sometimes bowl those back of a length, slower balls, cutters, those sorts of stuff, right? DC are a bit more spin reliant in the middle overs, which I actually thought this was a very interesting point. And I think apart from that, yeah, it's very hard to blame them this time. And if you look at their trajectory in the finals, even the final last year, they should have honestly won. They were just chasing 150 odd against Mumbai. I don't know how they lost that final either. Again, this one, to be fair, they didn't really seem in the game in the second innings. It was just RCB just seemed like the better side, to be very honest.
Yeah. They just dominated. So do you want to come in about their batting? Specifically, like what was interesting about their batting this season? And I'll open the floor to everyone. Like any interesting stats about DC's batting specifically?
So I actually have a couple of numbers, and this is specifically for the Vadodara leg, which I'd like to think was more suited to their style of batting because in the middle overs, especially when the pitches were not that good, strike rotation was extremely important. And something that we've actually spoken about on length across groups is basically the strike rotation aspect, right? Because in the Vadodara leg, of the top 6 run scorers, you have 3 of the batters from DC. Of course, you have Jemmy and Laura, but also Lizelli. Now, on top, it doesn't matter as much to rotate strike because it's a new ball. You have the only 2 fielders outside. So Lizelli makes it there because she can hit the boundaries. But if you look at non-boundary strike rates for Jemima Rodriguez as well as Laura Woolward, it's upwards of 75. And to give you context, only Beth Mooney is another player who features in that list. And this is for anyone who's got at least 150 plus runs in the Vadodara League. So I think that was their biggest strength, is that they just bossed the middle overs, irrespective of who was bowling, irrespective of how the pitch was, and it was definitely worse than Navi Mumbai for the most part. So that's a number that I will throw, which is going to help them at least in the long run for sure.
Yeah, I
That's
think
very
just
cool.
to add on to that point, just yesterday, Wolvart played 25 balls, didn't face a single dot.
Case in point. Yeah.
It's ridiculous. Like Mandana also did this amazing thing of facing just 4 dots, but then it gets blown away by no dots. Like I've never heard of anyone playing no dots. Like I was looking it up, going, I can't remember the last time Abhishek Sharma played no dots. The guy breaks cricket. Wolvart is incredible. Like the more you read about Wolvart, right? She is this unbelievable player who, to me, it's a very close battle at the top of cricket of Mandana's 1A, Wolvart's 1B, because Mandana has higher highs. But Wolvart just can do everything. She can be your slow anchor. She can be the death overs hitter. She can be this, oh, I'm going to be in the background while Jemima Rodriguez and Chanel Henry hit everything and just keep the ball going. She just can do everything. She doesn't have a weakness to her game. It's quite incredible.
Yeah, I think DC's batting was probably the plus point. MV, was it you who had the comment about Nikki Prasad's entry points? Like they're looking not as, I think in the early DC games, it looked like, she had to come on early and did not really relish that role. Does anyone have any comments on that?
Yeah, I think they haven't figured what should be her entry points, and nor have they figured like what's the best position for her to bat, and like does she need more balls to play at the start or does she need to accelerate at the end. I think she's there because there's obvious talent, and I think that's why I think and we'll go back to this eventually over a long period of time in at least the WPL till we have just these 5 teams and these tournaments having in such a small short span of time. Is the benefit of having a longer season is how you get to know about these teams much more in depth. I mean, these teams have more than 20 odd players, right? So that should be great for a longish season as well. And now we only see role clarities coming uh, for very very few teams. I mean, most teams are still finding, and that is also something we had told in our preview, that most teams are going to struggle to find their 11, and I think it's that, and that's not going to change, and it's not their fault. It's the fault of this season being created in a very random fashion, snuck between India, New Zealand, and like the under-19 World Cup also, and then the pressure of closing it on a Thursday. All of those things. None of this means that Nikki Prasad shouldn't be in the 11. She must be in the 11.
I probably just wanted to add in here a point about just the larger utilization, right, of the Indian uncapped players by most of these franchises, right? It's just been quite sad because take the case of UP Warriors, what they did with Shweta Sehrawat, bringing her in like so much lower in that batting order. Nikki Prasad, case in point for Delhi Capitals. I mean, you have retained them for a reason, right? You sense some potential in this player, and even like a basic look at stats itself, right, will give you an idea that Shweta Sehrawat again is someone who bats like right up top in that batting order. Don't have to go too far, just see her under-19 World Cup itself, right? See what she's done in the Delhi Premier League, what she continues to do for her state team as well. Nikki Prasad too, right? Again, bats in that top 4 for Karnataka itself. So for me, I think it's just the criminal underutilization of Indian uncapped sources, resources by these teams that really like stands out so much. And then you expect them to perform and do the thing, because I think Nikki Prasad did get some hate, like, oh, she is not able to score runs, like aise kaise hua and all of that. But just actually go look at her numbers domestically, right? Her strike rates don't cross more than 100 at least this time. And I'd just like to say, yeah, that I hope there is some foresight into like the planning itself, right? You really need to be strategic about like just using these players better. And I hope Delhi takes some learnings, right? Because like 4 times unlucky. Again, I'm not saying that's the only reason that they lost, but then 4 times unlucky. I think law of averages will catch up at some point. Cricketing gods will have to, just do some justice in that regard. But then this was one point that really stuck out to me, and yeah.
Yeah, how much did DC miss Sarah Bryce this season? I mean, I feel like they really were able to use her to their advantage last year, and this year, yeah, I just felt like they didn't have that little explosion that you need, uh, somewhere in the middle or late order that sort of gives your score more of an impetus, especially because I think they lost some close games, right? So that's I think one of the things that stood out to me with DC. And I think in the pre-tournament preview, what we had talked about is that basically DC's weakness, not specifically their batting, is actually their bowling. Like their bowlers are good. They're all really great. Like Minu Mani had a great season towards the end, not in the first half. Right, her first half season was not good at all. She came in, and I think she needed to get Mandana's wicket in that one game where she came in to sort of get her mojo back. Sneh Rana, not necessarily the best off spinner. I feel like if you have both Minnu and Sneh, that doesn't really give you a lot of flexibility in the middle overs. I don't remember who it was who said that they're very spin reliant in the middle overs compared to perhaps RCB. So I thought DC were definitely a fast bowler shot, but Nandini Sharma, a word about her. You can start, Neha, and then we'll go back around.
Yeah, because I think you could just see my face just break into this wide smile, right? Nandini Sharma has been undoubtedly the find of the season, right? For Delhi Capitals, at least for her stateside, she had been doing well. But credit to DC scouts for actually getting her into the setup. She served as a net bowler, for some other franchises in the past. And come this season, I think she's been such a revelation, right? I think one of the very few Indian bowlers who's able to bowl that back of the hand delivery so beautifully. Is able to mix up her pace, bowls well up front, and later too. I think she's definitely one to watch out for, right? Again, hasn't been chosen for that Australia tour, but playing like for India, I think she'll largely benefit. That experience will come through, and hopefully, she can probably stake a claim for a place in the team when probably the squad is chosen, right, for the T20 World Cup itself. She can be that surprise package. Because when you look at the other pacers and how they've performed, take the likes of Kranti Gaut, Kashvi Gautam, and all of them, they've probably not had that sort of a season. And I think Nandini Sharma has done enough to, sort of throw her hat in the ring and be like, hey, probably she can be like I can be considered, and she definitely has I think a lot in store too. I think she was like a massive positive, and again, it's lovely to see, right, like India producing a crop of like fast bowlers who can actually do a good job. It's just to see like how she will be continued to like be nurtured within the system itself, and hopefully she goes a long way. Like a great start this season, and very fittingly so was also, I think, awarded like the emerging player of the season award too, right? Would have been great if she could have capped it off with a purple cap as well, but yeah, we take wins like that.
Almost. Tarutr, do you want to come in about DC's bowling and Nandini Sharma? Any words?
Yeah, I think Nandini Sharma particularly, she Neha mentioned this, but the back of the handball. During the Women's World Cup, this was a topic that me, Shayan, Praatibh, a couple of others who were part of the coverage did of Animal Sutherland, how she basically decimated the entire World Cup with this back of the hand ball during the middle overs. And obviously, Nandini Sharma is not at that level yet, but it's pretty close. Like, it's hard to diagnose that on the fly when you're playing it. And she is very consistent. Like, she puts the ball where she wants to put the ball. Like, it's not flying all over the place. She doesn't get flustered if you get hit for a boundary. I think how she played Vole yesterday was a great example of everyone else was just chucking the sink at her, including someone like a Cap. Nandini Sharma went, hey, you know what? I'm going to put a fielder on deep mid wicket and I'm going to hit your stumps. And that's all it is. So the only way you're going to score a boundary is by hitting it to deep mid wicket. And that's what Charni ended up doing as well. And I think, I can't remember who got her out, but they got her out to that ball. And the over before Vole got out, she had hit it to the boundary off Nandini Sharma and it had dropped between two fielders who got confused about who was going to catch the ball. So she did that for 4 overs. She didn't get hit by Vole. She was the only pacer not to get hit by Vole. So she knows what she's doing and she executes it really well, which is very impressive for someone that young and that fresh to it. It's a jump in quality to go to the WPL. So to do this against the best batters in the world, alongside some of the best bowlers in the world, and I think there's a lot of room for improvement there, which is kind of crazy considering how good she already is.
Yeah, like just adding on.
Praatibh?
Sorry, yeah. Starting on to Tarutra's point on Nandini, I think often because of the event and the stage and all of that, you tend to forget some of the basics that a lot of players get right. So the accuracy bit is actually a huge point because even some Indian nationals, someone like Renuka Singh Thakur, who's so experienced, one of her biggest issues this season was the fact that she wasn't consistent with her accuracy, right? Those in swingers starting on middle or middle and leg and then just going down for wides. So keeping that in mind and the kind of stage that this is for Nandini Sharma on debut to be able to pull off that kind of accuracy. And I think the first time you sort of noticed that was also when she was bowling to Sophie Devine, where Sophie Devine was going bonkers in that game where she scored 90 odd. And we thought we'd finally get a WPL century. But for Nandini Sharma, the clarity of thought in knowing that, okay, her slow ball, her back of the hand slow ball's been hit. So what's her next option? She goes for a bouncer. She's not afraid of using that sort of delivery. And I think that clarity is already setting her apart from so many of the other bowlers. Even someone like Kranti Gaud, who's played for India, there's still moments you see where if she's getting hit, she tends to get hit for a lot of runs in an over, which I've not seen with Nandini as of this season at least.
So I'm gonna bring you in, Shayan, now. So I'm gonna ask you any comments you have for DC, and who is the Sansa Stark of DC, which means basically who's the Queen of the North for DC.
I don't know. I think it's see, with Delhi, I think we talked about Nandini Sharma, right? What's really been interesting to me is that she hasn't even taken the new ball that consistently, right? She has been like this first change sort of a bowler, which I think makes her skills even more valuable because you get new ball bowlers still, but the fact that she can bowl in those crunch situations towards closing the power play through the middle overs, through the end of the innings, I think that's what makes her stand out. And another very interesting stat that I had looked up actually for Delhi while we were having this conversation was that in the Vadodara leg, they are the only team who have an average like north of 30 when it comes to power play batting, and they were at 45. The next, all the other teams were at 24, 24, 20, and 18. So something about batting in the power play in Vadodara, I don't know. Delhi seemed to have. So yeah, and I feel like they were really good in the fact that they were nailing those low scoring chases, right? But in the final, they batted first and they put up more than 200. So we can't really fault their batting all that much at all. And if I have to pick a, the Queen of the North from the Delhi Capitals, it's probably Nandini, right? I mean, we probably didn't expect that, she's going to have this level of an impact because we hadn't seen much of her at this level. And if we have to go with perhaps the most established stars, I was very much looking forward to watch Lizelle, right? Because I said that in the preview as well with Tarutr that, she has been someone who has absolutely dominated the WBBL and international cricket. She was a six hitter. Like, she was a pioneer when it came to six hitting in the women's game. So I feel like she had a very good season. Their entire top four is very interesting to me because of very contrasting styles of play. Like, and Praatibh and I, we were having this discussion yesterday where when you watch Jimmy and Woolward bat, there's an element of Virat Kohli to it where they just minimize the dot balls completely. They don't, they keep taking the singles, doubles, single doubles, and they still score at a pretty respectable run rate, right? Yesterday, we can't really fault either of their, 2, 3, 4, 5 when it comes to the scoring rate. Honestly, it was just Lizelle in the first 3 overs. That also down to brilliant bowling from Lauren Bell. Not because, it wasn't that Lizelle lacked intent or anything. She was trying to move around the crease, try to, nullify the swing, but it just didn't come off for her. And when I think she, became more stable in the crease, then she started getting those boundaries. And she also eventually caught up to an extent because the start she got was pretty bad. But after that, it's just been a really good season. Even Charani, for that matter, she was not very good in the Navi Mumbai leg, but then she came back really strong in the Vadodara leg. Even Jemmy, when we talk about her, showing that sort of responsibility and, not really she just makes sure that the game is under control when she is batting there. So I feel like that was a really, positive thing for them that she can do it under the captaincy pressure as well. And yeah, right.
That's very cool. Okay, so Tarutr, do you agree with that analysis? Nandini as the
I mean,
as the Sansa.
No, I think if you're going Queen of the North, it has to be Jemmy, right? She's become so good this season. Like, she's not been regularly good in the WPL. She's not been regularly good in the WPL this year. The first week was not great. But she's stepped up so much, so fast that the 50 in the final just went, yeah, that's what she's supposed to do. It's kind of an incredible thing to just be part of the furniture that quickly, while also figuring out how to be captain. So yeah, I'm still going Jemmy. Nandini is great. She's awesome. Cap is unbelievable. Wolvart is top 5 players, like top 5 favorite players for me right now in the world. But it still has to be Jemmy. She run that team, so it has to be her team.
Neha, Praatibh, you agree?
But I think for me, it's going to be a slightly left field choice here with Lizelle, right? And the reason I bring her name up is I think just coming to the season itself, a lot of people didn't expect her to do well, right? They were thinking that she'd be found out. WPL is a very different source, in comparison to probably the domestic cricket she plays in Australia, or even the WBBL for that matter. I mean, the fact that she's managed to, seal her place in that Delhi playing 11 is amongst the highest run getters itself. And in spite of all the criticism and scrutiny about the way she looks itself, I think she's really made that sort of an impact, right? I think she's just gone on to show that you can look a certain way and you can still actually contribute to the team's cause. And I think it's one of those very uplifting and inspiring stories itself. I was hoping, she could possibly make her come back for South Africa as well, but now, she has Australian citizenship and she's entirely, shifted with her family there. But then I think it's just for me, like the kind of season she had for the longest time, I've just wanted her to, be a part of the WPL in some shape, form, capacity, in spite of all the criticism too. But, to see her have this sort of a season and the backing that she got from Delhi itself, right, was really, really nice to see. There's still some areas of the game she needs to work on, probably, the keeping side of things. But again, that comes down to how DC, wants to figure out their, keeper conundrum, so to say, because Lizelle cannot be your answer for that. But as a batter, I wouldn't fault her for anything. And like on more occasions, she's given them those sort of electric starts and quite deservingly, deserves to be in that like highest run getters list too.
My point, Praatibh. So I'm surprised no one's brought up Shefali. I think she had a quiet season, right? I think not her usual, but I feel like she's made a lot of improvements to her game. But yeah, Praatibh, you're up, and you can also start with your rating for DC. So this time the rating is out of 10 Nandini slower balls.
Ooh, okay. I think DC would be just a shade below RCB, so probably 8. I gave RCB 8.5, so I think I'd give DC 8. Barring possibly the first couple of games where I think they were just figuring out a lot of things and there were a lot of moving pieces. Once it settled into once they got past that hectic week of a lot of games very closely packed, they were a solid team. And I think one of the biggest things, so for me, the queen would be Jemmy, also for the fact that she was captain and just the trust factor in the players. Because if we look at the 11s that they chose, after a point, there was consistency in the 11s. There was no uncertainty in the fact that, okay, maybe this player's not performed, so I'm going to switch this player out. We saw that a fair bit with someone like RCB or some of the other sides. But I think Jemmy, on a captaincy front, was very happy to say, okay, I'm going to back you till the end of the tournament and we'll see how it goes. So overall, I think just a shade below RCB, 8 is probably what I'd give them.
Yeah, I would like to cut 1 point for them never playing Alana King throughout the season.
Oh, that's a completely
Leg
different
spin bias,
discussion.
guys. We can't have a podcast without talking about leg spin, right? I mean, I can't believe that Delhi went an entire season without playing.
Yeah.
I think.
Right.
Because in the previews, my thing was that they're going to have to pick between Laura Bulwart or Lizelle Lee, right? They can't play both of them. And they have to play Alana King, but they didn't play Alana King. So I guess we were all wrong and they didn't give her a single game as far as I remember, right?
It's very interesting because if they managed to pick Alana King somehow, then that would naturally solve your Nikki Prasad problem as well, because she'd be pushed higher into the order. So maybe that's something for them to think about next season. Yeah.
But who do they drop out of Lizelle Lee and Laura Bulwart? That's the difficult question, right?
Who's going to keep depends on that as well.
Well, that too, exactly.
Yeah.
So if they had Sarah Bryce, this wouldn't be a problem.
No, I'd actually defend DC on this because Alana King's great, clearly, but you need Lee to keep. You need Bulwart, and DC's bowling doesn't make sense without Henry. So
That's true.
It's crazy that Alana King keeps getting teams that don't pick her. She should come to Bangalore so that we can drop her for Pooja Vasarkar, but it's nuts. I don't know. She's clearly top 5 bowlers in the world right now. She was devastating on Indian pitches during the World Cup 3 months ago. I don't know how she doesn't get picked, but for DC specifically, I actually do see the logic.
But the funny thing is, she might not even start for RCB if you think about it.
The thing is, she wasn't even picked in the auction.
Yeah, I don't know where Perry comes back with his RCB team. She's too consistent. We need more Mavericks.
That's true. Consistency. It's for boring teams. So speaking of a team that I find personally slightly boring compared to the other teams is Gujarat Giants. They finished third. They were in the eliminator. I mean, what is the biggest surprise for you about the Gujarat Giants this year?
I don't know why Ash Gardner doesn't like herself. Sorry, Praatibh, go ahead.
No, you go for it.
She doesn't bowl herself. It's very annoying to watch.
I think she's the first captain I've seen like, no, I'm not interested in bowling. Like 9 out of 10 times, I think you've heard experts cry about not having bowler captains because they bowl themselves too much. And here's Ash Gardner like, no, just keep that ball away from me.
But honestly, just taking a moment, talk about Gujarat Giants. I think the resurgence that they've had under Ash Gardner and Michael Klinger, right, has been phenomenal. The fact that they're able to, make the playoffs. I think even just looking at their season, right, they started off with a bang, winning those 2 matches versus UP and DC, and then they faced like 3 consecutive losses. I think I didn't mention it on another podcast. It's really similar to how India also, started out their World Cup, like winning those matches and then, facing 3 losses, and to come back and win those 3 games to, have destiny in your own hands and to seal a place in the playoffs, right? I think massive credit. And I think the biggest surprise for Gujarat was also the performance of Sophie Devine, right? A lot of people felt, why are you spending so much money for her? Like, is she like even worth it? Isn't she past her prime? This is Sophie Devine we're talking about. The woman ages like fine wine, right? Every single time steps up when the team needs it. Again, this is not coming from a fan perspective. Just have a look at numbers. This time around too, right? Was the purple cap holder and contributed so much with the bat itself. Like GG is again such an interesting team. I feel like they consistently back their Indian uncapped players. Now sometimes the experiment doesn't work, but the times it does, right? You have someone like an Anushka Sharma, you have a Kashvi Gautam, so to say, Bharti Fulmali too, right? Ever since her India call up, I know the performances have just like dipped so badly, but then again she's a player, right, that GG sort of gave that opportunity to, and Kanika Ahuja too, right? Although she was shuffled a little bit across in that batting order, but still, right? I'd say that GG is one team that constantly backs those Indian uncapped players, and I hope they continue to sort of do that. But again, man, it's been that sort of a season for them. I thought in the eliminator they were like overwhelming favorites, so to say, because although Delhi did have that sort of an advantage of winning, they had that momentum in their hands, but GG sort of fluffed, and they lost the plot somewhere there, and you could see how the dugout itself had like cut out a very sorry figure. It looked like so they were just so dejected in some phases of the match, right? Again, I think experience, we will see them do better, but when you look at RCB, Delhi, and Mumbai, these are teams that have like a men's equivalent team, but GG and UP Warriors don't have that culture, heritage, or legacy, so to say, right? But the fact that GG is able to carve one for itself, I think speaks volumes, yeah.
Yeah, and anyone else want to come in?
Yeah, just the point you made about not being too fascinated with them. I'm actually quite curious about that because I thought they were very fascinating this year. The batting order is very interestingly built. It's a couple of runners who open the power play, and somehow that works for them. They've got Ash Garner, who basically comes in at 3, as far as I can remember correctly. They've got Wareham and Fulmali at the bottom having fun. And they're both, again, very different players. Wareham runs more, Fulmali whacks the ball more, but they end up playing together. It's, yeah, the Devine part, obviously. Devine's awesome. Especially after that little mental health break she took last year. She's come back ridiculously good. But yeah, I'm curious as to why you were not more interested in them. They have slightly ugly jerseys, but apart from that.
I think it's just I couldn't understand what they were. I feel like in terms of their batting, I felt like they relied a bit too much on having Fulmali come in at the end and whack things around a bit. And I don't know if I mean she had done that a few times last year, but I don't know if she was that consistent for them. And in terms of their bowling, like I thought they were a little too reliant on Sophie Devine coming in at the end and scaring the opposition. So I didn't quite get, I didn't quite understand how they were winning. Like that's, and maybe it's perhaps I didn't watch enough of their games. Those were the only games I ended up missing because they weren't on the weekends as much, and that might just be it. But I just couldn't understand what got them to the eliminator, and perhaps you can, someone can help me understand this.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but at least with Gujarat Giants, they played their power plays really well. So most teams would have one really good bowler, like maybe Delhi Capitals had Marizan Cup, and they were happy to play out that end, ensure that they're not losing a wicket there, and maximizing against the other bowlers. So I think your point on how maybe they might have been leaving too much for the finishers or maybe too much for certain kinds of players is true. But at the same time, I think with the pieces they had, tactically they made some really good decisions. And I feel like that's what also got them far enough in the tournament. Uh, and I think Anushka Sharma is also someone to watch out for. Although this season she's got scores and she looks bloody good, like be it through
Yes.
technique or her intent or anything. But if you'll see, ultimately, what's happened is she's still taken time. So she's played some really amazing strokes, but you end up seeing her get run a ball innings or stuff like that. So maybe things like that could have been where, although it looks good to the eyes, it's maybe not worked for them. But there's promising signs for the seasons to come also because Anushka Sharma's game itself will expand. And I think this is a really good side. Beth Mooney is going to be on top, and essentially you would want her to play the entire innings. Is going to be your kind of player, which is something they also got. And so till full Mali was getting those knocks towards the end of the innings when she was scoring 36 of 19 or knocks like that, it was working really well. So the moment those pieces went out is when they were possibly facing issues. So it's a lot of tweaking that they'll have to do, but tactically, I think they are a stronger side.
No, just another point about Anushka Sharma that has nothing to do with the cricket. She's looks like a properly cool player, like in the field with her curly hair and the glasses. This is an ironic comparison, but it's kind of Virat Kohli-esque of just I'm in there, I'm talking some shit, I'm the young person, but I look great and you all are idiots and let's just keep going and I'm angry and great and let's go. And she looks properly cool, especially in those dirty orange jerseys. She makes it look good. And I'm like, all right, that's a player I can like compared to a lot of slightly boring players that happen to be around the league.
Yeah, there's just some energy about her, and she's also brilliant in the field. I think sadly it cost her her injury, her hand for a couple of games. But yeah, like definitely someone. I'd be surprised if she doesn't play India in the next couple of years if she's consistent. Like it just seems like she's made for the big stage.
Any interesting stats about GG? Like perhaps the power play, how they bossed the power play. Do you have anything?
Yeah, I think they were by far the best power play batters, right? Not even close. They were like 10, 15 runs better than everyone else on average. And they're the only WPL team that likes batting first, right? That alone is this little
That's true.
quirk that
Yes.
they really enjoy batting first. They tend to put up scores that are about 10 to 20 runs higher when they're batting first, which is rare for the WPL. And I think that's a bit where you could slightly see the Aussiness in Ash Gardner coming out when she chose to bat first and was happy when other people put them into bat first. They were like, yeah, we'll just do it and you guys have to catch up and it's not my problem in the second innings anymore. So I think that was a very interesting part about them.
Yeah. Chan, do you want to comment about GG?
Yeah, I think, I didn't particularly rate them that highly coming into the season. When I looked at their team and everything, I was like, okay. What I really felt was they were lacking another middle order batter in their team. I know there was like, obviously people were talking about Anushka Sharma even before the tournament that, she's this player who's done really well at the domestic level and she is likely to start. Everybody had her in their expected lineups, cricket for and also. I think we were expecting to see her, but what I was thinking is ki, Ash Gardner is in at number 4. Georgia Wareham is at number 5. You probably want them a little later on so that one more batter in the middle and you have a very strong batting lineup. Then with Fulmali also coming towards the end and Kashvi Gautam also who can, hit a few and score some runs as a number 8 sort of a batter. So I feel like that one piece I felt was missing. And obviously Sophie Devine, I think she's overperformed in a sense where, she's also done so well with the ball, and obviously she's had a terrific season with the bat too. Deserving player of the tournament for sure. Won them 2 games bowling the last over against the Delhi Capitals once again. So that element was there, but I don't know, for some reason even I find it a bit hard to follow Gujarat Giants compared to the other teams, because as you guys said, right, they have the other teams, the 3 teams that already have a men's team, this thing, right? So you naturally get a bit more attracted towards them and you want to see those teams more. I don't know, maybe it's just some sort of a subconscious bias that I have, or most of us have maybe. But yeah, with GG, I think they
It's
had
the orange
Renuka, right?
jerseys.
And the jerseys, of course. No doubts about that. They also got Renuka, right? And with Renuka, Tarutr and I have been having a discussion for like a year or something. She is the best bowler in the world when she's on it, right? But she is so inconsistent. She is so high variance there. She can go for 20 runs in 1 over, or she can take like 2-3 wickets. It's just incredible. That, and it's just that RCB game, if you guys remember, right? The first over went for what, 20 runs, and then RCB somehow managed to be 40 odd for 4. It was just a hilarious game to watch. And even the final, the eliminator that they ended up losing, right? Ash Gardner's captaincy, maybe in the sense of, the fact that they were able to come back in the season and they finished third quite comfortably, right? I think we have to give her credit for that. But at times, I felt like she was going too much into the matchups, which, to be fair, I think I am a fan of matchups, right? We need matchups in cricket. We need informed decision making based on data. And, it has to be a bit more granular than just the fact that, okay, you can't bowl to a right-hander. There are spinners who might be worse than that off spinner at a given point, right? When we were talking about Harmanpreet and how, she openly said it, that Harman has had the, edge over me in international cricket as well as in the WPL, which she was right about. But then the other left-arm finger spinners that she was talking about, Harman had dominated them even more. So would you not just trust the more high-quality international bowler? That was something which was a bit, off-putting through the season, especially in that RCB game, in that Mumbai game, and then in the eliminator as well. So I feel like that's something which I will not be able to forget that easily. And, lots of people were saying that Ash Gardner is likely to be the next captain now for the Australian team, right? But now they didn't give her the captaincy. Maybe, this sort of season, I don't know how much of a part that played in that, but yeah, I feel like that is something she could, take a bit more charge for the quality of player that she absolutely is, both with bat and ball.
Yeah, that's right. I think Ash Gardner had an interesting season.
Yeah.
So I'm going to open this up now. I will ask Neha, actually, and then the others. Who do you think was the Falguni Pathak of Gujarat Giants, which is the absolute GOAT?
I think no doubt here, my answer is going to be very obvious. It has to be Sophie Devine, right? I think time and again she just proves her mettle, and this season was no different. Again, adjectives will fall short to, sort of describe her impact itself. The fact that she's able to churn out performances like this consistently is something that I think will augur well, right? Considering they've invested in her probably for like a 3-year cycle itself, right? The mega auctions itself. And a little bit like you feel, was a former RCB player, doing well for another franchise. You'll always, feel nice when you see some of your old players do well in that regard. And yeah, the fact that, she doesn't play international cricket anymore, it's freed up her calendar so much more. And just channeling all of her energy to franchise cricket, I think it will just be really good for Gigi itself. I think in her the speeches, right, she did after winning the purple cap and that MVP tour, she did mention the team environment being such and the kind of camaraderie she's developed with each of the players too, that sort of helped her come up with performances like that. So just hoping that we get to see a lot more of that. So for me, she definitely has to be the very obvious pick for this award.
And is there agreement from everybody else?
Yeah, I think
Yeah, that sounds about right.
My only grouse
Okay,
is
so-
that Sophie Devine is great all year round, and Falguni Pathak is only required during Navratri. So, just that.
See, this is this is very typical MV. So okay, since you've come in about this, I will ask you, what do you think is Gigi's rating out of 10 last over finishes by Devine?
6.5.
That's kind of low. Interesting.
I actually have it higher than DC, I think, just because coming into the season, DC had higher expectations. and GG. I mean, you could hear them even after they got eliminated. It was a positive elimination. Going, yeah, all right, it happens. We'll come back better next year. We know each other. We know the team. And a little point I want to add to, like Shayan brought up as well, right? The top three teams already have their followings and they're just migrating over. I was talking to one of my subscribers today morning who was at the game yesterday and has gone for a couple of the games in Vadodara. And she's not from Gujarat. She'd flown down there to check it out. And she was telling me that the games are pretty packed. The stands they've got RCB fans and DC fans, but there's a lot of Gujarat fans. There's a lot of local families and local women coming in, kids, and even she was saying she saw a lot of grandmoms coming in like Gujarat Giant shirts. So it is a little unfair to judge them this early on. I think give them 10 years, see where they're at in 2030. Do they end up being, ironically, the DC of the IPL? Or do they end up being the RCB, right? Are they the guys who know how to market themselves? Do they not? But yeah, I think this extended run where you say, oh, you're going to play 10 matches in Vadodara and all 5 teams are going to come and all the big players are going to come, it has an impact. People want to show up because you hear, oh, I went for this thing. My friend went for it. She said it was great. So I'm going to go tomorrow and tickets are cheap. And it's not easy. The stadium is an hour away from the city because everything in India has to be inconvenient. But it is... that's how you build audiences. So as much as I hate the fact that Bangalore hasn't had a match because RCB decided to kill some people, it's good that other stadiums get a chance, right? It's good that Vadodara gets a chance to see cricket and top class cricket, especially if you have a team that's from the city.
Wow, I can't believe I have to sidestep that comment and go ahead. We had you on, I remember, about the stadium debacle, but yeah, in the interest of time, I'm going to move on to MI. So, folks, how did MI just reach second last in the table? Like, we had pretty high hopes from this team. They were largely unchanged. They still kept all of their top all-round talent. Like, what went wrong for them?
See, I think for Mumbai, it has to start from the top, right? Their power play batting, I feel like that was the thing that held them back the entire season in some ways. And the most interesting thing was that they kept changing around. It's not that they let it go and they were not like, let's back whoever is there and hopefully it comes off. It felt like they played some 5-6 different opening partnerships. Correct me if I'm wrong. It definitely felt like that. I have to go back and look at the numbers. But yeah, but whatever they tried early on, it just didn't seem to work. Even if you remember the NSB 100 game, right? They didn't really have a particularly blazing start in the power play, right? What they managed to do was Hayley Matthews didn't get out. So that then, really impacted things. And then she was able to build that partnership with Nat Silverbrunt and so on. But I feel like apart from Nat Silverbrunt and Harmanpreet Kaur with the bat and Sajana Sajeevan, I think she had a couple of innings once at the start. And then there was also that one partnership between Amelia Kerr and Amanjot Kaur, I think, in the game against UP, where they were playing pretty well. I think they were still a bit behind the game, but they didn't put up a bad effort at all. Their batting, I feel like they didn't have a lot of options to fall back on. It just felt like again and again it was the same old players. And that one game, right, against the Gujarat Giants, where Harmanpreet, again, as usual, she's almost like Bradman against Gujarat Giants, right? She will always make runs and she will make high impact runs. And nobody could support her this one time they finally lost to them, right? So I think it just shows the over-reliance on those two players who are absolutely class players. But I don't know, right? Like Mumbai, they were the title winners last year. Then they didn't change their team. So I was rating them very highly coming in. I am also very confused, okay, what really went wrong.
Yeah, and probably just doing a dissection of Mumbai itself. So far, when you look at their past 3 seasons, you've had like a certain set of core players, who have ensured that they've won. I feel that strategy was just found out, right? Because the rest of the players in that playing 11 just go underutilized because it's just like the overseas players plus Harmanpreet Kaur who, do the job for them. And yeah, Mumbai is happy they've won 2 titles and all of that. But this season, I think because of those players, not really stepping up as much as they did in the past seasons, it really came to the fore, right? And the fact that they lost to UP Warriors twice in a row, I think that was like the final nail in the coffin itself. This is like not being disrespectful to UP Warriors, but then I think Mumbai really, really lost the plot there because those two losses against UP Warriors coming back to back in a span of like 2 days and then losing to Delhi as well, it really meant things were, sort of going out of control. One positive definitely has to be, I mean, Harmanpreet Kaur, the fact that she was in the reckoning for the orange cap for like a great chunk of the season, was scoring runs at will, in spite of all the musical chair experimentation that was happening with that, opening duo itself. Like she really emerged as a positive, but after a point, it just felt like things were out of Mumbai's control, and it looked like a very deflated unit. Harman too, right? Usually see her very aggressive and this and that, but I think after the World Cup, when she's like kind of tempered down a little bit, you see a very different version of her. It's like this whole weight of the world that's off her shoulders. Again, not sure how the players inside the setup are reacting to that. Seeing such a calm Harman. The one time I did see her really angry was probably at Amanjot in that RCB game itself, or like I'm sure or was it another game? Not sure. But all in all, just something really didn't work out well for MI, and the fact that like a lot of their frailties did come to the fore, I think just meant the season was always going to be difficult and things were going to be out of their hand.
Feel like it's also a problem of
Yeah.
plenty, right? Because you spoke about the core and how the core is essentially all rounders. So every player who has been a core for them, Amanjot Kaur, NSB, uh, Haley Matthews, they've all been bowlers and batters. And because of the fact that Haley Matthews was injured to begin with, it sort of sent them in a frenzy because it was not their set template that they usually start off the season with or have throughout the season anyways. Uh, Interestingly, they anyways found Nicola Carey, who's going to be someone who they're going to keep for a while.
Mhm.
But it's essentially that now because of how much certain players are being utilized or underutilized, it ties back in with Neha and Tarutra's points as well. So yeah, it's really tricky, and because of this, your players, if you think about it from a psychological standpoint, a lot of these players might lose confidence or might not feel confident in their abilities because obviously you're not going to be as good starting out, especially uncapped Indian players, as compared to some of these great all-rounders. So at what point do you get that opportunity? So even someone like a Kamalini, she started off, the first game was good, she got a decent start, and then she kind of faltered off for a couple of games. But if you're picking someone who's that young and if you've given her that kind of responsibility, at least I think even as a management or as a captain, it sort of becomes your duty to at least give them one leg so that you can fully either rule them out or just give them the entire season and be like, okay, we understand you're just 17 years of age. You're going to take your time and you're going to develop. So because what happens now is they've dropped Kamal in mid-season. They've possibly faked an injury as well. We don't know what the situation with that is. And so coming even
Mhm.
into the next season, she's probably going to question her spot. Even if she has a couple of good
Yeah.
innings, is that good enough for her? So it's a lot of this. Like I think it comes down to how they manage their players. And it will also be interesting because their all-rounders are also becoming are coming closer to the ends of their careers. So because of the fact that they're investing in newer players, Amanjot Kaur is an all-rounder and all of these. So how do you ensure that you're transitioning properly? So that's also another thing.
Why do they want the same player to play in both the innings? Like I understand like all rounders, there's a huge space for all rounders, and they have some of the best all rounders, but it just seems like if you lose an all rounder, like you said, it's very difficult to fill those shoes, right? It's very difficult to build your squad around it. So Haley Matthews, they really missed her. It upset the balance of the team when they didn't have her. A word on their all rounders. Anyone else wants to come in?
Um, I mean, it's like you said, right? The women's game is still at the point where 180, 200 is considered a good score. So all-rounders are a useful thing to have, where you don't need to have complete specialists. And it doesn't help that their all-rounders are also specialists. Like NSB is top 10 batters, top 5 batters in the world. Emilia Kerr is the best spinner in the world, in my opinion, at least top 3. I don't think anyone would disagree with that.
Yeah.
Healy Matthews, same thing, up there, top 5 all-rounders in the world for sure, but top 5 batters also, I would argue, top 5 bowlers from an all-rounder perspective. So it's not like they're taking bits and pieces places and saying, oh, you've got to do everything on both ends of the ball. They're taking the best all-rounders and shoving them in. And as Praatibh said, they had the problem of too many all-rounders, right? It's not like they could play all 5 of their overseas players, they would have. And there's a lot of different problems, right? I think Neha wrote a piece for us in the season about how they kept persisting with Sajana at the top, which was just made no sense. Sajana's not an opener; she's a finisher. You can't ask her to open. Um, she also made a point earlier in this podcast about how the other teams, the good teams, use their local players. MI just didn't, and I think that's a shift that we've not talked about on the spot in this season, whatever, of how the tactic of using your local players has become far more important versus Mumbai had largely won, and even RCB in 2024 won off the back of their foreign players and one or two Indian players. So that tactic has shifted. But all of that being said, I think the simplest answer for why MI lost is that you don't drop Ismail. The moment they dropped Ismail, it throws off your entire team. You cannot drop the best bowler in the WPL. It's not close. Like it's not. I would compare it to RCB dropping Bell, but Ismail is better. Like it's not. You just don't drop Ismail. It's pure karma at that point.
He also dropped Kerr once for a game in Vadodara, no less. So, my God, I couldn't believe it. So, Shayan, you wanna make a quick note about MI and then we can go to the ratings.
Yeah, I think I feel like another interesting thing for them was that Hayley Matthews was a very impactful power play bowler for them. If we go back and look at the last 3 seasons, right? So I just have the numbers in front of me. She had taken 16 wickets in what, 42 overs? No, not even 42, 32 overs. Yeah, exactly. So in 32 overs in the power play in the last 3 seasons, she had taken 16 wickets, and only in the last season she went for a few runs. She went for 10 runs and over. But before that, her economy was 6.44 and 5.7. Now this season, she only bowls in the power play in 3 innings, and she goes for 3 for 56 in 5 overs. So I feel like that is one place where it is a bit of a difference, because I think an off spinner giving you some overs in the power play, that was a pretty handy thing that they had. And she could also bowl those random bouncers out of nowhere, right? So I feel like maybe her not performing to the level that she was in the previous seasons played a bit of a role. Especially when we're talking about the all-rounders. And another thing that we've mentioned before is that Amelia Kerr's batting has regressed a bit, right? And they decided to throw her and throw to open the innings, right? And that didn't seem to work at all, because she just kept dotting up. It was not really, I feel like, her thing. And we've seen her decline even in the ODIs in women's cricket, right? You can see that her strike rates are not really at the same level anymore. She's not that same quality of a batter, perhaps, that she was when, I think when she made that double hundred when she was like, 17 or 18 years old. And everybody was, very excited that, oh, she's going to be an absolute superstar, which, to be fair, she is. She is one of the best players in the world even now, especially with the ball. Undoubtedly, I agree with Tarutr that, she's the best spinner in the world. But her batting not holding up as well, perhaps. What all this did was it caused balance issues for them, like to the point that where Tarutr says they had to drop Shabnim Ismail, which doesn't really make any sense. And they essentially had 5 very good overseas options. They just had to keep picking between those. And I feel like there was Ronak for Best of Cricket. He did a very good piece actually on their all-rounders, and he was, sort of computing their impact and everything. I think if somebody wants to read about the all-rounders and their impact for Mumbai Indians, that's a really good place to start.
I'm gonna bring you in, Praatibh. What do you think was MI's rating out of 10 Amelia Kerr leg breaks?
It was a bit of a googly, to be fair. Probably give it a 5 or 6. I mean, with that squad, if you're not winning the WPL, it is a bit of a shocker. So, yeah, 5.
Yeah. Do you think the game has just progressed beyond MI's current strategy in terms of how they build their team?
If you look at trends and how women's T20s have progressed, you can definitely start to see that scores are getting bigger. And if anything, all rounders make a lot more sense now. So I won't say it's probably just a template thing and a confusion thing, because every team would love to have the luxury of the kind of all rounders that Mumbai Indians has. Uh, Another thing is also maybe they're not the most explosive set of all rounders. Like, would you rather trade one of the all rounders with someone who can really tonk the ball? Because there is no designated finisher. Like, everyone can come in and possibly do a job, but do you have someone like Richa Ghosh? That's just something that I can think of at the moment. Of course, you have Natsua Brunt who can really go for it. You have Hayley Matthews who can. So, yeah, it's a tricky one. But still, all rounders supreme for me.
I think it's a valid point, but you shouldn't discount MI just randomly getting the best all-rounder in an auction with nobody else bidding for them. like it'll just suddenly happen.
I had a question about who is the Neeta Bhabhi, sorry, the Wall Street bet of the team. Um, but I think so. Who's the greatest Wall Street bet in this team?
I'm going to say Kamalini purely for the fact that they're going to stick with her for the long run.
Oh, you're talking about whose stock is low right now that we think is going to go up?
Someone whose stock is low. Yeah, we can interpret it this way.
I'll probably take this one and go with Vaishnavi Sharma, right? Coming in as a replacement late in the season. I know we didn't see a lot of exploits with the ball for her, but I think she's definitely one for the future, right? A very interesting signing there that did happen mid-season. And the fact that she's been doing well, right? Right through age group cricket, in domestic cricket as well, is an under-19 champion too. I think like in the Mumbai stable, she will like grow and develop a lot. Will play for India also. For a lot of years, right? So I think she's one investment, that this season probably we didn't see a lot, but going ahead has a lot of potential.
Yeah, that's right. Okay, let's go to the team that's at the bottom of the table for the second consecutive year. They're just batshit crazy. I don't know what else to talk about this team. The UP Warriors, guys. What are they doing? What's going on here? And
They accidentally built a slightly average ODI team. I don't really know what this roster construction is. None of it makes sense. Like to your Indian marquee players, Deol and Deepthi, who are good players, but they are ODI players. And there are some people who tell you Deol's not even an ODI player. Some people on this podcast who I've fought with a lot. And I think that's the basic thing. I don't know what this team is. One point that we should make that really stands out is Eccleston has been terrible. Like for someone who was widely credited as the best bowler, forget spinner, the best bowler in the world, truly terrible. And if you look at the stats year on year, first year was incredible, right? It was the Eccleston we all expect. It's been declining quite rapidly, both her wicket taking and her economy. And I think she covered it up a little bit last year with some batting performances down the order. But the bowling has become not just average, become below average, where you can't bowl a 4 overs a game. So I think that's a big one that they've missed on, or she's missed on. I don't know what's happening there. Maybe it's just a bad year. But the team doesn't make sense. It feels like they're short on everything. I don't know how you manage that. Shikha Pandey, what, 2.4 crores for Shikha Pandey? What was the point of that? Like I don't understand this team at all.
And I think when you look at UP Warriors itself, a lot can also be attributed to their auction strategy itself, right? You're trying to build an entire squad around Shweta Sehrawat. Now, again, you're taking a punt on a massive player. Like, honestly, it didn't make that much sense. Like, obviously, Shweta Sehrawat does have potential, but trying to build a squad around her, it's not like she's that marquee or, some player that, the senior team hasn't taken into account. And even with Abhishek Nair, right? I just felt like most of the times when he was addressing, the journals in press conferences, he just seemed like clueless, right? He was like, oh, I'm not able to pinpoint like what went wrong for UP Warriors. We as armchair critics are able to do that, but you as a coach are not. I don't know. I just found it extremely baffling and, not taking accountability for that. Probably the highs for UP Warriors this season was the fact that they were able to get those wins against, already struggling Mumbai Indians unit. And I think the other thing that UP Warriors thought was the moment you have someone like a Meg Lanning, you're going to start winning. But again, what are the rest of the other 10 players going to do, right? Meg Lanning alone cannot win you games. Abhishek Nair also brought in this point of he felt that the campaign went like a little all over the place after they lost Phoebe Litchfield itself. Like, again, how can you just take one player and be like, the moment she, was injured, our campaign just went into jeopardy. I'm not sure how these are like logical reasons in that sense. I felt like the squad construction was still better than their previous seasons. They had like, a sense of like bowling. There was some bowlers that you could actually look at and be like, oh, this is what constitutes their bowling. But all in all, it just, I don't know, like the sum of all parts just didn't add up for them. And a very, very forgettable season. Wooden spoon holders yet again. The kind of initiatives that UP Warriors does off the field, sometimes really captures my attention more than their on-field exploits. Again, not to be disrespectful. But I hope they take a lot of learnings from the season. And Abhishek Nair, as a coach who himself admitted that, he hasn't worked with women's teams in the past and has no idea, can get like some insight from the season firsthand itself.
Praatibh, you want to come in? With the UP Warriors season.
UP Warriors has been an interesting season. I think up top with Kiran Navgiri just not firing in any game at all.
Yeah.
That's pretty sad. And she's someone who's had the reputation of being such an explosive player in the domestic circuit. She's broken records of all types. So right from the top, that's something that didn't work. And you losing Litchfield halfway through the tournament is also something to think about. But even more interestingly, when their opening combination with Navgiri at least was not working, and they tried Deo, they tried DP Sharma, why not just have Litchfield open the batting? It's something she's done in the ODI World Cup. She has a fellow Australian on the other side. It would have complemented Lanning's style of play, where Lanning likes to take a little bit of time and bat through again the entire innings, be an anchor. And Litchfield, is going to explode anyway. So I feel like those are some really basic things that they could have done so much better. Push Navgiri down to where she was a lot more comfortable, possibly have her come in as a finisher even. So the biggest disappointment is that because if you look at the power play overs, they've somehow managed to be the team that has lost the least wickets in the power play period, but it doesn't help because they barely strike at anything. So right from the start, if you're not setting the tone well, and even Shikha Pandey with the ball, for example, you've spent so many of your team's resources on getting this one player, and when she doesn't fire, it suddenly becomes a huge issue. So it's some of these things.
I
Yeah.
don't know. See, with
Shayan?
the UP Warriors, I feel like it's a bit interesting because coming into the season, I was somehow rating them very highly because I thought they had lots of players in different roles, and specifically their spin bowling. I thought that it is possibly going to be a game changer. But right now, if we just look at their numbers, their spinners average 37.5, which is the worst in the league. And they had an economy of 8.7, which is sort of middle of the table. But their spinners were just not taking any wickets, and it's not like they were stopping the runs or having an impact in terms of being more conservative with the ball. That did not happen. So one thing was their spinners completely fell apart. They had Eccleston, they had Chloe Tran, they had Deepti Sharma. I mean, they had Asha Shobhana. I thought they had so many options, dude. Why are they going to be
Yeah.
they have option, they have spin bowling choices with them. And then when we talk about their batting, I felt that if Navgiri can give those high intensity quick starts that we know that she has the capability to do, right, a bit like Shafali perhaps. So I was thinking that could work really well for them at the start, with Litchfield coming in at number 3 or even number 4. So I think Navgiri completely not performing, I think, has played a big role in this, and their spinners underperforming. So because I think completely agree with the other panel members here who completely didn't seem to rate UP all that much. I just felt that okay, they have lots of different players in various roles who can do a good job, and Litchfield we know is a very this sort of player who can be really impactful in the power play, but also because of the variety of shots that she has, she's also really impactful through the middle overs. I thought that even if she could take up a number 4 role, that could have played a bit of a part in stabilizing their middle order a bit, with Navgiri and Lanning doing well in the power play, but that clearly did not happen. Of course, that Harleen Deol / Pratika Rawal role, Pratika of course didn't play a part in the tournament at all, but that was one number 3. I was also a bit shaky about, okay, that's a bit too slow for T20s, but and Harleen still managed to win them a game, to be fair to her. But I don't know, dude. I honestly can't understand. Even Shikha Pandey, if you look at her season, some of her spells were really good. But then the other spells, she went for a lot of runs. It was very, very high variance from her, which is usually not what you would associate from her, I guess. You probably think she's going to be a more reliable, a more consistent bowler, at least from what we've seen with the Delhi Capitals, her partnership with Marizan Cap up top. That, again, none of that, just nothing seemed to work for UP. The only thing they managed to do was defeat Mumbai, I guess.
That's true. They defeated Mumbai both times.
That's true. Another thing, Shayan, I mean, this is maybe digressing a little bit, but with UP Warriors and just rating them even at the start of the season, if you look at all of the other franchise teams, I would say they have Indian players who are already with some kind of reputation in the T20 format. Whereas if you look at the UP Warriors, even that's a bit of a miss, right? Because Shikha Pandey, all right, she's the only one who you can somewhat say, because of the track record that she's had, that she's also can be a good T20 bowler. Whereas if you look at the rest of the lineup, no one really, like Harleen Deol, Kiran Navgiri, you can say to a degree. but they don't really have that standout Indian player also
I think
who
even
can be
if we talk about
impactful.
their overseas players for that matter, Deandra Doughton, I don't think she had that level of impact. So they eventually ended up
Yeah,
dropping her. They tried Chloe Tryon. I
yeah,
think that didn't really work for them either. So
yeah.
I don't know. I thought they had the tools to be, at least have. I don't know. Maybe when I was comparing them face by face, maybe I overrated them for some reason. But I very clearly remember talking to Deepak. We had like two big podcasts, and we were like very bullish on UP that no, they're looking like a serious team this time. They're going to do something, and Lanning is there, and maybe with Abhishek Nair it will work out. But now Abhishek Nair himself admits that women's cricket is a completely different ball game for him as well, and I'm sure he would have learned a lot during the course of this season. But yeah, I think they have been the perennial wooden spoon team of the IPL of the WPL in some ways. Is it? Is it not?
Also,
Yeah, I think.
sorry,
Go ahead, Tarutr.
Oh, I was just gonna say there has to be something wrong in the water here because you can't have Leg Lanning as your captain, who is very, I think, unequivocally a good captain. There's not really a way to debate that, and everyone is worse, right? There were two great South African finishers from the World Cup. Nadine Clerk has carried her form on. Chloe Tryon has been completely invisible. The Deepthi and Deol had one game basically where she was telling Abhishek Nair to go find himself. But there's no inspiration in this team. Everyone just seems to be going, so okay, 1 month, get over it and move on. Right. And you can talk about analytics and you can talk about how do you buy a team and how do you spend it, how do you choose a team and all that stuff. But beyond Lanning in Litchfield, no one really seemed to show up this season. Right. It just maybe they've just all I don't know what it is because we are covering a sport that doesn't like tell its fans anything about itself. So we don't know what's going on in the locker room, but it feels broken. It feels like when your buddy tells you that he's got this great job at a startup, but then they make you work 25 hours a day, so he's broken his spirit. Like it just feels broken.
It's a very Bangalore reference, but you know what? I kind of agree with Shayan. Like we also rated them highly. I thought they were very exciting up front because that spin lineup, along with Kiran Navgiri's domestic form, I thought we'll see some fireworks up top, but that just did not manifest itself. And their wicket keeper, like what is going on with their wicket keeping? What the hell was that? Then they didn't play who I thought who would be their most exciting player this season, which was Gungari Trisha. Like I really wanted them to play her, at least try her out if they got rid of Kiran Navgiri at some point. I don't know. So let's talk about UP in terms of who was the best player for UP, who is the UP cheeseburger of the team. And if you don't understand that reference, you have to listen to our WPL preview.
UP cheeseburger is a choice. Lanning? It has to be Lanning, right? She's the only one who showed up. I mean, Litchfield too, but Lanning was there the entire season, so I think she gets a nod.
Yeah, I think for me it has to be Phoebe Litchfield. I mean, the fact that she missed out the rest of the season, but still finds herself in the top run getters list at that number 11 position. I think she just plays such an exciting brand of T20 cricket, such a refreshing sign, and definitely a future like superstar for Australia if she already isn't one. Right? I hope they continue to retain her, give her that backing here at UP Warriors, and she can eventually turn their fortunes around. But for me, I think she has to be a player to watch out for and a big positive.
Yeah, I get it. What about their rating? So out of 10 Meg Lanning starts, what is UP Warriors rating?
-30.
Two? -30.
I don't know anything positive about this team. And this stuck with this team for 3 years.
That's true. I think I'm specifically disappointed in that Abhishek Nair thought that he could just waltz into like a women's team and just do what he does for men's teams, and I'm like, what? It's a completely different sport at this point of time. But yeah, I think the team chemistry just wasn't there for some reason. Like that the thing that holds the team together, it was missing. And yeah, I think that's all you can say about UP Warriors season. And um, a forced retired out also was just strange. Some strange tactics. All right. So just overall WPL impressions. Who was the most improved player from last year's WPL?
Probably has to be Litchfield, right? Because for some weird reason, she was not really dominating the WPL. But now this season, she had an average of 40, strike rate of more than 150, played just 6 innings, but like absolute blockbuster stuff from her. I mean, I think she is perhaps the most exciting player to watch in the women's game right now. If you have to tell a casual to just get into the sport, she is the player you want to watch because she can access the whole ground. And she's also a very sensible player, but also a very exciting player at the same time. And she clearly thinks about her game. You can tell that, she has those cricketing smarts with her as well. It's not because sometimes you see when these players who are very talented, they can tend to lose their way a bit. Maybe they're not, sometimes very smart about their decision making. But I think she's bang on with when it comes to that, and improvement for sure. I mean, since that World Cup, she's just been like a next level player for sure.
Right. And so who is the turtle of the WPL, which means who carries their team on their back?
I think it has to be Nat Brunt, right, for Mumbai Indians. The fact that she continues to do it like season after season, deservingly so, right, was the first centurion of the WPL. At least for me, she's like right up there. I'm not sure how we didn't speak about her and how single-handedly she's been chipping in with the bat and the ball, albeit a little expensive with the ball, but at least with the bat, right? I think she's had that sort of a season, and I think for me, literally carrying the team on her back itself.
Can you say she carried them when they didn't really go anywhere?
Good one there.
But no, most of it goes Boulevard. I think she's got almost as many runs this year that she has in the first 3 years. So yeah, finally living up to it.
Nice. Who is the knight in shining armor of the WPL, as in who saved their team from certain defeat the most?
Nadine de Klerk, I guess. She kept doing it over and over again. That Zulu-esque, where we were talking about her World Cup right last year. South Africa would keep using her at like number 8, number 9 for some weird reason. Very reminiscent of Zulu 1999. Again, for RCB, I think both with bat and ball, she just had such a massive impact that she was possibly the biggest game changer in some ways. You could argue Sophie Devine as well, but I think we might have to give Nadine de Klerk some points because RCB actually ended up winning it, which is not a fair way to look at it, but who cares? So
That's fair. Okay, and this one is for you, Praatibh. Who left this WPL as a bigger name than they entered?
Anushka Sharma, 100%. I feel like if you Google search her now, you won't have Virat Kohli's wife showing up. You'll also have some search results for Anushka Sharma, the Gujarat Giants player. So Lauren Bell, Tarutr says that in the chat, not Lauren Bell. Thing with Lauren Bell is even through the World Cup, you've seen like this whole package of commentators talking about her technical change and how she's tweaked her game a lot. But Anushka Sharma, for so many people coming in, you've just heard of this name. You possibly have an idea that okay, she's done well in the domestics, but to replicate that to some extent and with the kind of style and this how she carries herself is definitely one name to watch out for the future.
Yeah, that's fair. I'm not sure that if you Google Anushka Sharma, you will not find the actress, but everything else I think I agree with. All right. Any final notes on the WPL before we wrap up? Like, what did you think of the tournament overall compared to previous tournaments and in general?
I really think like this season was a well contested one, right? The quality of cricket was right up there. The fact that we were still, thinking of who could potentially qualify for that eliminator itself till the very last match, I think just, went on to show that each of the teams were going, at it. And I just felt like it was a much better season in comparison to the others. And also, we didn't have like the usual suspects, qualifying for like the playoffs. Again, takes me back to the point that I wish we had like more matches, more teams. The scheduling could have been better, and probably like they could have probably kept the first leg in Vadodara and then the next set of matches in Navi Mumbai. Sort of capitalize on that. A lot of things that could have sort of gone better, but in spite of that, the league continues to deliver and throw up so many stars, right? So yeah, I think a lot of positives in that regard, but I hope like there's some again foresight into the planning and the scheduling side of things, and it's not so centered on men's cricket is playing, like you have India, New Zealand and all of that, and then sort of schedule the WPL as an afterthought. So I hope that mindset also, sort of goes on to change, and better venues too, right? Navi Mumbai is definitely one of your picks, but could other venues have been explored is something I'd probably leave the room to think about.
I mean, Devjit Saikia says that women games don't get crowds. So, I mean, should I believe you, an armchair critic, or the secretary of the BCCI?
David did say he was
Ah.
an interesting man doing very stupid things. I don't know how he's become so important to global politics all of a sudden.
Don't worry, I think he's on his way out. Anurag Thakur has just been cleared, right, to come back to the BCCI. Are we doing the draft?
Yeah. Do
Should
you want to do
we?
the draft real quick? Do we have
Yeah,
time?
let's do it. Neha,
Okay.
Tarutr, Praatibh, Shayan, Richa, and MV. Okay,
Hey,
that's the
keep
order.
me out. Just let's
No,
just
it's
have our
12.
guests.
So it's 12. So two each.
Okay. Okay.
All
Wait, so
right,
give us the
Neha,
rules. What are we doing?
it's just a simple snake style draft where we pick 12 players to form the team of the WPL 2026.
So Neha, you're first.
Yeah, I really love that. I'm first. I'm going to go with Smriti Mandana there. At least the top order is sorted, and the captain of the team, right? Rightfully so, winning team. So she, Tarutr is not at all happy with that.
Sorted. Up next is Tarutr. Tarutr, you have second pick.
Yeah, as a completely unbiased observer, I'm going to take Lauren Bell because those two apparently can
Who
win
would
you
have
the title.
thought? Like if I just cut a reel of you saying Lauren Bell, I think that'll be more than 1 minute.
Please don't do that.
No, we don't do editing on this podcast. Next up is Praatibh.
I'll go with Natseva Brunt.
Another easy one. We have Shayan.
I still feel like there's lots of options available. I'm honestly getting a bit confused. So, how about Nadine de Klerk?
Yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah.
Richa.
Sophie Devine.
Sophie Devine. I think, yeah, I had expected her to be picked earlier. I'm going to go Nandini Sharma and Harmanpreet Kaur. And back to you, Richa.
Wow. Oh God. So Nadine de Klerk's already done. See who else.
So I'll go through the names
Ismail.
again. Neha went for
Shabnam Ismail.
okay. So I'll run the order again. Neha went for Smriti Mandana. Tarutra went for anybody's guess is Lauren Bell. Praatibh went for Natseva Brandt. Shayan went for Nadine de Klerk. Richa went for Sophie Devine. I picked Harmanpreet Kaur and Nandini Sharma. And Richa's again picked Shabnam Ismail. So back to you, Shayan.
Can we pick more than 4 overseas?
Doesn't really matter, man.
If that is not the rule, then I have no issues, guys. We probably need another opener still, I would assume, because we do have a lot of batters, but we can go with another opener to, complement Smriti.
We don't even have a
Who's
keeper
the
yet.
most-
So
And we can, sort out a keeper as well. I mean, Lizelle Lee seems like a good option if we want that keeper plus top order
Yes.
bat covered. So I think let's just go with her. Yeah, Lizelle Lee.
fantastic, which brings us back to Praatibh.
So, okay, so we probably should go for a spinner. We don't have too many spinners. No spinners right now, I think. Probably go with Ashley Gardner.
Is
Yeah.
this the team where she
Covers-
gets to bowl?
Yeah, she has to bowl in this team. She's also not the captain. So yeah.
Makes sense. Next up is Tarutra.
So we've got an off spinner, right? So it sounds like we need a leg spinner. You guys tell me who you think the best leg spinner in the league is. I
Has to be
think-
Prema Rawat.
The Indian Wareham.
Since we're not doing foreign players, I think we have to, I mean, we're not doing an overseas limit. You have to go for Lana King, right? She's even gotten a 50 in a World Cup.
Why not Amelia Kerr?
Too many all-rounders.
Yeah, but
It's not enough fun.
Can't wait for Neha to end this with another surprise pick.
I was actually thinking very left field here, and I was thinking of Rajeshwari Gaikwad. I think the way she's reinvented herself in this season, I think she definitely makes a case for herself. Like, Yeah, I don't know. I just feel like we should go for her.
Tarutra's just fallen off his chair.
I was just looking at her numbers, right? This season, like she's had some really economical spells. Was
He's
amongst the
fallen off
weakest
his chair again. Like,
for the record, yeah.
I mean, the big question is, does this team beat RCB?
I mean, if Smriti is playing against RCB, so and
We're assuming
Nadine
clones,
Declercq.
right? We're assuming clones.
I think going by the theme of the WPL, I think ChatGPT can decide it.
So much shade from MV all throughout the pod. All right, so with that we wrap up our WPL coverage. It was a lot of fun this year. RCB won it again. Congratulations to their team. As a Delhi fan, I'm sad, but what can we do? Yeah, so I just want to thank you all for coming onto this podcast. Praatibh, Tarutr, Neha, Shayan, thank you all. Hopefully we can invite you on for more coverage in the future. We have a World Cup coming up later this year. So, all right, and that's a wrap.
That's 4 in a row. Where is good? They're going to pull next.
The prodigal son turned Messiah gets his second 100 in successive.
India have won in dramatic style. The whole of Bengal